Okay, so I had a really popular video on my channel fairly recently about the Canon 5DSR. Now this camera is well and truly over 5 years old. February 2015 this was released, so it's getting a little long in the tooth. However, due to its recent price crash, obviously people are searching for it, looking it up and want to know a bit more about it. So today I thought it'd be a great idea to grab hold of this camera, pop it on a tripod, jump into this mansion and talk about the one thing that this camera is really good at, and that's architectural photography. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is James Kerwin. Thank you for watching this video first of all. I'm a fine art photographer primarily. I used to run workshops, but 2020 is a funny year. And I mainly shoot relics, ruins, off the beaten path, travel photography, all across the world over the last few years. My website is in the link below. Today's video we're going to be mostly talking though about the Canon 5DSR, and I'm going to give you some tips on kind of how to use it here in the field. Okay, so I believe this camera is actually probably the best architectural type camera that there is in terms of what money can buy. And I know people are going to say to me, but what about the Fujifilm and the Sony cameras? Yeah, of course they're great, but for the price and the fact that the age of this and the resolution that you get out of it, I believe it's probably the best on the market, even still now. One of the best things about this camera, and why I believe it's the best camera you can get at the minute for architectural photography, is actually the lens options. Of course, Canon has some amazing 24 17mm tilt shift lenses, and for architecture photography these are two of the best lenses that has ever been created, if not the best lenses. Sharp, and when you put it with this kind of camera, of course the quality is obscene, to be honest. Now I know you're going to say to me, yeah, but you can get mirrorless cameras and they can have adapters, but there's never quite the same fix as a native lens on a native camera body, and that's why I believe that this at the minute is still probably one of the best options out there for high resolution architectural photography and interior work. So no other manufacturer actually produces lenses that are anywhere close to the quality of the two Canon versions. Nikon comes close, it has a 19mm tilt shift lens, but these two particular lenses with this body are the reason why really it's going to be the best in this series, and why I think it beats out that Nikon version. There is rumours of kind of mirrorless versions of this lens coming out in the future, and I would love to see that, but of course it's going to be incredibly expensive. So what I mean by this and the adapters and why I don't think it's that great is there's a couple of things. When you're adapting a lens like this, of course you kind of put it onto, say, a Sony body, you adapt this lens, you pop it onto the camera, and there's always some sort of malfunction, misfocusing, there's lots of different things that can happen, and which that means it then doesn't work out as well as it should. I think that when you're looking to purchase a camera or a system, don't rule it out because it's old, and don't rule it out just because it's not going to work for you. Look at the whole system, don't just look at the body. You know, is a new body out, that's great, but does it have all of the other features? Are the lenses there? Is the lineup of lenses available to me? And for interior photography, I think that the lineup that Canon offers with this body is second to none, like I said already. Okay, when reading like a forum post or doing research on a camera prior to kind of purchasing something for this form of photography, you may come across some complaints along the lines of it's hard to get sharp images, or there always seems to be some sort of, you need a camera to get really still and steady so that I can obtain the results that I'm after. Well, of course that's true, but at the same time it's because it's got a high pixel density in this camera, and that means that you're going to need to think about a few things prior to going out there and shooting to get the best results for you. And I'm going to give you a few of those tips today and help you kind of really along your way. Okay, I've already mentioned tip number one. If you've been listening carefully, you would have heard that. Tip number one, of course, is going to be a strong, solid tripod. So what do I mean by a solid tripod? Well, there's a few things you can do to help yourself out. First thing, carbon fibre tripod. Lightweight, but really solid and strong. Here we've got a geared head. You don't necessarily need one, but for in interior photography I think it's a great thing, but that's a topic for another day. At the moment, what I'm saying to you, to get great shots on this camera, something like an L bracket is perfect. This allows you to go from portrait to landscape orientation very, very quickly, because the L bracket is camera specific. It was built for the camera. This is the Sunway photo. I'll pop the link in the description below, and that just allows you to slide portrait, lock it in, flick of a wrist, you know, and keep the weight, most importantly, over the tripod. So the heavy lens, the heavy camera is now through the center of the tripod. So if I was going to go into portrait mode, I don't like the way that some older tripods, mainly, or cheaper ones, come off to the side here to shoot portrait, and of course that means the weight is off to one side. So first tip is definitely that. Get yourself a strong, solid tripod that's going to allow the weight through the middle. Doesn't matter if you've got a center column. Mine is really strong. This does up really tight and there's not really any wobble in here at all. Look at this, nothing really. But if you have got one, make sure it's got a strong center column. If not, just don't use it, or get a tripod without that center column. They're my main tips on the tripod. Okay, so on this 5DSR, it's easy to put on the 2-second timer, and it's also easy to set it up with the remote. And this is one of the benefits of this camera. You press Drive AF on the top, you get to all the AF operation, autofocus operation, and you can slide across by using the wheel at the back to go to 2 seconds, which is on the end, or you can go to 10 seconds, which is just one in. 10 second is also the remote release trigger button. So you could select that and use a remote release if you wish. Some people prefer to do this. I don't mind using either or. 2-second or 10-second timer. Okay, next tip, again a really easy one, it seems obvious, is to get the settings right on the shoot. Don't try and like post-process something and bring up the shadows. Nail your shots in camera, on location. Get your brackets if you need them, slow down and think about each and every shot. With bracketing in this one, it's simple to put onto the camera, and I recommend doing auto bracketing, and I'm going to show you now how to do that as well. Okay, so of course here in camera, what I'm doing is I'm on the normal menu system here, and we can just press the start. If you're not on that and you're on live view, then of course you can get to it by just pressing start stop. We can then bring up this menu. If you press Q, you can actually go through and select. If you rotate the button on the top, so that's just here, you can actually rotate it. You can actually spread out the brackets, so you obviously can spread it out between one bracket, so this means you're 1 over, 1 under, and you can go to 2 or even 3 over and 3 under if you so wish. And of course that's only for 3 brackets. If you need more, you can actually come into here, you can press the menu button, you can go through your menu system, and where you'll find the bracketing is here. So this is on the FN, you literally on the 4th, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th menu option. Down here, you'll see on the first selection, you've got number of bracketed shots, and you can come in here, you can select 5, 7, whatever you need. Now, if we go to 5, just tap the shoot button, it goes back to the main menu, and it's already got 5 on, but of course, if you're then gonna separate them out, that's how you do it. Easy as that. Okay, the next one goes in line with that, really, the next tip, and that is your correct focus point. So focus in the exact point that you need on the scene. So make sure that you've nailed your focus, and you can do that by checking on the back of the camera. You can always use this icon here, which is the little sort of marker tool, the little magnifying glass icon here on the left. You can zoom on in, punch into your image after you've taken it, and check the sharpness. If you're using a tilt shift lens, of course, using the manual focus, I highly recommend doing this as well. Nail that focus, and that will of course get you the best results. If you're combining it with the other tips that I've already mentioned so far, really simple and easy, but nailing those tips, putting this together, all of these sections, we can then get the sharpest results from this camera body, especially if you're printing your work. And the final tip really here is, it's not really a tip, it's whenever you buy a new camera, pick it up, play with it regularly and often, go into the menu settings, work out what everything is, know everything about the camera. I know this camera inside out, I know where everything is on the camera, I know what each button does. I've had it for 5 years, 5.5 years of course, but by doing this early on, it meant that I was getting the best out of this camera quite quickly. You know, I could go through the menus, find all the stuff that I need. The only stuff that I don't really know that much about in this camera is to do with auto tracking and sports kind of photography, which I don't do anyway, and I certainly wouldn't recommend buying this camera for that style of photography anyway. Another one of the things that I'll mention briefly about this camera and why it's a great option, of course, is the dual card slots here. I do it so that it shoots on the first card and then backs up automatically to the CF card, which is just in the back here, slot number 1. So I highly recommend doing that. And because of the large file sizes, I also recommend getting fast cards, or fairly fast SD or you know, CF cards, just because of the file size. Otherwise you'll be waiting around in between shots for quite a while. Thank you very much for joining me on this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and taken something away. If you're considering purchasing this camera and you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll ensure to come back to each and every one of you. Like I said before, it's a great camera. It's done me really well over the last 5.5 years. I highly recommend it. It was one that I was due to change probably sometime this year, but due to the global situation and finances, it's taken a back seat for now, but it's still holding up really, really well. Of course, if you want to see more of this type of content, we do a couple of tutorial type videos a month usually, and a couple of location videos a month. We're out shooting with this camera as well. Please, if you've liked this video, share it with a friend. Of course, tickle the like button if you've enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of this content, subscribe, hit the bell notification, because next week you'll be notified when I've got new content available to listen to. Until next time, bye bye for now.